it's it's foreplay. We lube up the conversation.
Yeah.
I admire your mustache, and then we get into the deep stuff.
Yeah, I shaved a beard today just to give you the full mustache experience. Because
Doug, that's one of my favorite things. That's since I've started following Softlete, since you guys came into my life as a young Green Beret. That's how I've always known Doug. So this is like the perfect way. It's giving me that feeling of nostalgia.
I'm still the guard, so the mustache is not something that I ever wanted. When I went to Iraq in 2011, and we were told we had relaxed grooming standards, so I thought I'd have a beard like I did in Afghanistan. And I got there and realized no one had beards. Everybody had a mustache. So, everyone was telling me I had to shave. So I was like, fine, I'll shave to this crazy mustache. And I dyed it pitch black, like a Saddam mustache. And like
I know the story.
Yeah. All my partner boys guys were like, this is a very strong mustache. So like, teaching in Africa, deploying in Iraq, it was always the big mustache. And then now when I'm in the conventional side of the guard now, I left Special Forces, I don't know, almost 2 years ago now.
Really?
And it's funny, a lot of people will never leave. I mean, you go to all the trouble to get in. And for me, the big play was in 2014, I went through a divorce. No, not 2014. In 2014, I had a bad time. Then I stayed married for a while. I got divorced in 2020. And the problem was a lot of it was work and just being fragmented everywhere and just always being gone. And so when I got a divorce, I was like, man, I've got to be around for my family more. So when we started talking about more rampant deployments over at 20th Group, I was just like, I need to be here. In 2014, when I was going through a bad time, my oldest daughter didn't have me around. And so she kind of went off the rails a little bit. And my youngest daughter now is 13. And I see the writing on the wall. I mean, she's lovely and got her head on straight, but this is the time. So I was like, I can't be gone. So I was trying to figure out what was going on. I was at like 18 years in service and I didn't know what to do. So I took a job at Joint Force Headquarters in North Carolina just because they're not going to deploy, and it was depressing and sad and being around. I mean, just it was an accountability formation every morning and then sitting around an office staring at other people and going to a bunch of, briefs and things with a bunch of colonels and generals. And I think I was there 3 months and I told myself, I can do this for 2 years. I just, coast to retirement, try to lend some value. And I was not loving it. And one of my old team sergeants, who's a sergeant major now, called me and was like, hey, you want to teach at OCS? And I was like, I'll come over and talk to somebody. So I went over.
Good.
Yeah, my old sergeant major was like, you want to teach? And I was like, sure, I love teaching. Teaching at the Charlie Committee was one of the best times I had in the Army. And so I went over to just do an interview and he was like, oh, no, I didn't bother. He's like, you're already on the books. And I was like, all right. So, and the funny part is, like you say, the team time is the best time you ever have. Everybody wants to stay on a team forever. And the guys that I'm with, the guys and girls at the OCS committee are as good as any ODA I've ever been on. Everybody is super motivated. Everybody fills the gaps. Everybody is interested in turning out a better product. It's a wealth of experience. It's a wealth of just very motivated people and, molding soft clay and trying to put out better officers and give them a sense of how to actually lead is very rewarding. So I'm happy. I just enlisted to 21. We'll see, or extended. Wow. We'll stay in. But one of the hot points at Joint Force Headquarters and at the committee was my out of regs mustache. And so now it stays, I told him, I said my ex-wife, she wouldn't have sex with me when I had this mustache, and I kept it then. So I'm pretty sure you're going to get carpal tunnel writing counseling statements about this mustache, and it's not going to change anything. And they were like, fine, the mustache stays.
I am dying on this hill.
If there's one constant about SF guys is that we will die on really stupid hills.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The mustache or nothing.
I've been there. Dude, I was a proud member of the first Mustache Club. I brought it back in my battalion on my way out.
Nice.
I wasn't gonna get, it's one thing to have, to do it for fun, have the AR, like the standard mustache that the military allows us to have. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, it's terrible.
And it gets fun for a little bit, but then it's like, no, I'm going full Hispanic, full blown mustache, and no one's going to say anything.
It looks
I'm
good.
dying on this hill.
Yeah, it looks good. Who cares, right? Like the little ones
Yeah,
look stupid.
It's so dumb. Yeah, more men need to do that. Let's rock the mustache a lot more. And I was lucky. My wife liked it. She enjoyed it. So it was more of like I was happy at home. I loved getting the side looks from everybody at battalion leadership. It's like, fuck you guys. I am on my way, and this brings me a little bit of joy while I go down here to work.
The tiniest bit of joy is everything, So yeah,
exactly.
Sure. I get it.
Dude, when you look back at your career and see this lineage of being able to work on teams, it still sounds so foreign for people to understand that are still on the active side, still loving the team life. It's important to move outside your comfort zone when it's time to like look for another place to have like professional growth, man. Like we can't just stay stagnant. Like anything that stays stagnant doesn't grow. You die. You like at some point you have to leave the team or your platoon and develop yourself in another format. And being a coach, being a mentor to the next generation of officers, like that's got to be incredibly rewarding, man.
It's great. And it really is.
Yeah.
It's weird because
I have to imagine it.
It's not just in the military. People struggle figuring out what they're going to do when they leave. And
yes,
one of the things that really got me, so I chased a disability rating. I started probably 4 years ago, and trying to get a psych eval for something that's not PTSD, because I mean, I don't think I had PTSD, but I did have trouble dealing with emotional things that I just never touched. Like losing your friends, no matter how much you can compartmentalize it and put it in a box and be like, oh, this doesn't bother me. Well, I feel like one of the only emotions that guys can touch is anger. So a lot of the time anger comes out and you're just like, I might be frustrated, but I'm going to be angry. I might be sad, but I'm going to be angry. Because anger is a thing that I know. I'm like, ugh, I'm going to show you my emotion. It's anger. And so when I was going through the disability process, you answer the questionnaire the way it should be answered for your psych stuff, because you're like, okay, I'm chasing a rating. And the first time I did it, I got like a 30% rating for generalized anxiety disorder. Well, the second time I went through, I was trying to get it raised from 30 to 70. And the psych who was coaching me was like, you need to answer these questions honestly. And I was like, yeah, fine. And then you start looking at the questions and you're like, do you work well with others? Yeah, I work well with others. I've been on a team for years. My boys like me. And then you're like, but I probably haven't held down a regular job with regular bosses ever. Like, I mean, I worked in the oil field. I worked in SF. I've been in the Army. I started a company with friends who are all also SOG guys. And we all understand each other. So like when we have outbursts or like express our feelings as anger, everybody just takes it in stride. Like you can say the worst things to another team guy and he's like, man, maybe I deserve that. Or he's going through something. And then tomorrow we're cool again. It's not like that in the regular world. If you hurt somebody's feelings, they remember it forever. And it's not to say that they're right either, because I think we have learned a lot about taking criticism, some of us. But in general, like it's worth looking at the fact that like we guys who are in the military have a very unique experience and a very unique way of expressing themselves. And sometimes it's better for us to find things to do on our own. It's not like, guys get out and they get a GS job and they're not fulfilled because they're doing the same thing they did with less impact. And it's like, hey, man, do something that you think is impactful. I've got buddies that are doing like, one of my buddies is a director of security internationally for Mercy ships. Who would have thought that he'd be doing something like that? You know what I mean? I get more satisfaction doing volunteer work for Samaritan's Purse than I do doing almost anything. And it's like, you wouldn't think if I wrote a list of things I wanted to do, that wouldn't be on them. But with the hurricane, it was like a reunion out in Western North Carolina of SF guys who were like, I was bored at home, so I just put a pin in my job and I came up here and I'm camping in a tent and I'm like cutting trees with chainsaws and bringing food and helping people. And you're like, yeah, it makes you feel like you're a team guy again. I get it. But guys,
being a person of service again.
Guys need to be honest with themselves. And that's the nature of the military. Is there's so many social benefits, there's so many economic benefits of being in the military that I think guys forget that the real thing that they did was service. So if you're trading on, like, I mean, I still have a ton of pride. I mean, obviously I got a SF blanket and my Softlete flag that was in Syria and, you know, all this stuff. But like, really and truthfully, the pride that I feel about that isn't about being in the SF regiment. It was about feeling like I made a difference while I was in that place on that team. And that shouldn't end at 40, 45 years old when we retire from the military. We should keep making an impact. If anything, the skills we learned in SF or in the military period, because I don't think that there's this huge gap in service. I know that like there's the classes of service and people who are conventional will look at a soft guy and be like, well, I didn't do what he did. And you're like, no, you did a different kind of service, but I couldn't have done my job without you. Like, the infrastructure of the military is necessary for me to do my job. And so those people, I mean, service takes different shapes, like being a good mechanic, being a good plumber, you know, doing things around the house for your family. Those are all service and are rewarding. And as men, we get a lot out of those things. We shouldn't act like they're nothing, because there's something.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah, we need to kill this myth that only soft guys have the great impact and they're the only ones to do great things. Man, like some of the greatest war fighters that I know, some of the dudes that put in so much time in Afghanistan and Iraq and did amazing things are conventional guys, like infantry dudes, paratroopers that fucking took the fight to the enemy. 88 Mikes. I've got a great friend, retired sergeant major from the Marine Corps, and he was so ashamed of his service when we were talking about what we did, and then come to find out he was in like the invasion of Iraq, manning 50 cals, like fucking really getting after it. And you hear these stories of valor and service, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter because I was a logistician by trade. It's like, yeah, but in the moment when they needed a rifleman and a gunner, that was your job. That's what you did. You are just as much as a hero as these guys that get elevated on platforms.
We've lost a sense of duty in our country because we are trying to figure out how to take care of ourselves in a place where we're increasingly isolated, where we don't experience community. And I think one of the things that people see in SF that they don't see in their regular life is this brotherhood and this sense of duty and obligation to each other. And, you know, one of the things I love the most about Softlete is, like, we didn't recruit all soft guys to be on the program. We were a magnet for people that wanted to make themselves better and still do. I mean, the boys are still cranking it out. I sold my equity in Softlete over a year ago. And I mean, I'm still involved, still best friends with Brent. You know, it's a good group of guys and they're still doing a great thing. And when people ask me like, hey, what should I do to get in shape? I'm like, man, do Softlete. Like, I still use Softlete every day. I think that the program is best.
The thing that I love about Softlete, and if you could take us through that journey, it's watching it grow from the very beginning and like getting that first paper program in Afghanistan. Like, that was like, okay, I see these guys online. They're from my community. That's what I'm going to go to for a workout. And I remember downloading that first workout plan and just fucking destroying myself in Afghanistan and got into the best shape of my life. And it's one of those deployment things.
I'm on this program right now. I love that program. Best one we ever wrote. I still think it's the best one.
It's amazing, but like we don't often hear the stories of how these opportunities came together, these people came together and created these amazing programs. And you know, what Softlete is today, it's still a friggin' beacon of like, hey, I can get out and I can create something of value to not just my community, but the greater friggin' American populace. Like, how did Softlete come to exist?
I'm not sure we ever saw it being what it was, right? Brent, I mean, I know I didn't. And Brent to this day still picks on me about it. When he started it, we were both GoRuck cadre. And it was like a moonlighting thing, like Jason at GoRuck had put together a crew of soft dudes that were like irreverent and, poorly behaved. And we basically we were throwing physically demanding parties in cities all over the US and, trying to get on bully pulpits and talk about what service was to us while we smoked people that wanted to do tough stuff. And I was a partner in a CrossFit gym at the time. Brent owned a CrossFit gym in Wilmington. And, at that point, CrossFit, when we came in, CrossFit was just starting. So I came in 2004 and it was like the first real focused fitness I'd ever seen. My cadre at Special Operations Preparatory course put us through CrossFit workouts. And it was like, okay, this is hard. And, we didn't know anything about exercise science at the time, but then we started to, gravitate more to the fitness side, get gyms, realize that we needed to write programming because even though CrossFit was good, the constantly varied aspect of it wasn't necessarily conducive to maintaining a good general baseline of fitness for guys in our career field. Because, CrossFit became a sport. It became a gymnastically focused sport, which wasn't good for operators. Unless you were genetically gifted, at which point I think anything works for you. That's a kind of a rabbit trail, but Brent wrote a program for guys. Brent and Bill wrote a program for guys that were going to get selected and a program for guys that were going to be on teams. That was it. They sold PDFs. And I think in the first week, they sold something like 12,000. It was insane. They were like, this isn't going to work.
Damn.
It was insane. So we migrated over to a third party, kind of programming hosting platform called Train Heroic. And then by the time we got to 2,000 or 3,000 members, we realized we needed to build our own app. My gym, the segue was that Brent sold his gym and didn't have a place to film content. And I had a gym in the Pines. So I was like, you can film content at my gym. And he was like, well, do you want to be a 50% partner? And I was like, no, I don't think that thing's going to take off. And I'm already too busy. I'm doing GoRuck, I'm contracting, I'm in the guard. I have this gym and, I got a family. So I'm not going to put another thing on my plate. And I think I split ways with my partner at the gym maybe 6 months later. And I was the first full-time paid employee at Softlete, and I worked for nothing. I think I started at $34,000 a year. I didn't have equity. I worked there for, I don't know, 2 years, and we kept growing. So I kept getting raises, and eventually Brent came to me and was like, "Hey, you're a real value add here. I want to give you some equity." And there were some nuances in that, but it worked out really well. And we had a good, 6-year run where we were that was our sole focus. Developing more programs, building a community. It was very rewarding. It still is rewarding. To this day, I don't get paid anything by Softlete, and I probably spend 2 to 4 hours a week counseling dudes that message me on Instagram asking what program should I be on? Why do I feel like this? Hey, I'm going through a divorce. How do I deal with that? And being like, hey man, it's the hardest thing I ever did. Hands down. Going through divorce is the most emotionally and physically taxing thing I've ever gone through. And, all you can do is take care of yourself and try to do the next right thing. And, I didn't have that. When I was getting divorced, everybody just kind of, a lot of people who should have given me accountability during that time didn't. And so I never want to be in that place where I'm like, hey man, you're screwing up. You're getting what you deserve right now because you haven't been a good husband. You haven't focused on the things that matter. And so for me, it's like, if this is important to you, you have to put work into it. Same as anything else. And if you're complacent, you're going to get it. You're going to get out what you put in. So, work on yourself, be a better dude. And if if your wife doesn't want to be a part of that, then you know what the outcome's going to be. But you can look yourself in the eye and you can look in the mirror and not feel bad about what happened. It's tough because it's like the enemy gets a vote.
Yes. Yeah, divorce is something that will rock you to your core, and some individuals are very lucky, it's very amicable. Others have years and years of legal fights and pain and just suffering. But one of the things that you can always access is that physical, like being willing to like tap in to like I always say, there's 3 domains we have to focus on: mind, body, and spirit. And if you can focus on the physical workout while take a few moments, take some time out of your day and just work out, give yourself that peace and freedom from the anxiety and everything you're going through. That's going to help.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the anxiety, because I don't think people realize, but as men as a whole, we suffer from a lot of anxiety because there's a lot of things on our plate that we have to deal with. I mean, hey, it's stressful to think about taking an hour a day to be in the gym when you have all these other things that are going on, all these people who expect things from you, all of the deep-seated expectations you have for yourself that you can't articulate, where it's like, hey, Softly, we started integrating meditation and a lot of other things that people kind of poo-pooed at first. We had to put, when we put yoga in for post-hab, we had to rename exercises so they weren't yoga names, so that guys weren't like, oh, I'm doing yoga. You're like, hey, man, do it. Because telling a guy to sit down and clear his mind and focus on breathing is hard, but doing it through movement with yoga, where it's like, hey, you can't think about anything else because you're holding a position that's uncomfortable. And now you're clearing your brain and your focus is on your breath.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, now you're meditating, now you're clearing your mind, you're releasing a lot of the stress. It's called an allostatic load, I guess, where the allostatic load, the cup is only so big. You're filling it up all the time. If you don't have a release valve on the cup, it overflows all over the top and it makes a mess. So we're trying to figure out a way to keep the level of your cup more consistent. So, for me, the anxiety, the stress levels that we all experience, like, I have to take time to clear my mind. And you see people doing it like, oh, they block out time. I don't do that anymore. I use Headspace at night before I go to bed. And I sleep like a baby, because there's like a breathing drill and they talk about something stupid and silly, and then I'm asleep. But for 5 to 10 minutes before I go to bed, I'm dumping all the bad stuff from the day. And when I wake up, it's a new day. And, we all think that we're redlining all the time. Like when you're in the gym, you're trying to work out as hard as you can. You're trying to, and that's not good for you. The fitness.
No, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, man.
Yeah. So trying to program zone 2 days where guys are like, we're like, hey, you're going to do a thing, but it isn't going to feel like very much, because we're using this day to download all the other heavy days that you've had and give your body a chance to heal, process some lactic acid off your muscles and keep you functional. But guys, like CrossFit, as an example, you go into a community, the community's great. You're working out, but every day at CrossFit is a punishment. You're getting
you can't do that.
You have to. And
dude, I tell guys all the time, like, if you don't have a professional program, if you're not plugged in with a community where you have somebody that can do the checks and balances. I don't have a degree in working out. I don't have a degree in putting up a program. I got a coach. Again, I'm plugging him in because he's amazing and he's part of our community. He was actually my sergeant major. Terry Wilson puts together amazing programs that let me know exactly what I have to do. And I don't second guess it anymore because I see the progress. The days of working out like you're a gym bro, the days of working out like you are in Afghanistan in your 20s, they're not here anymore for a lot of us. Like that, those days are over. You have to train smart.
Think about how bad we were to ourselves in our 20s. Like, You
Yeah.
know, it was volume on volume on volume, followed by drinking, followed by no sleep, followed by
Yes.
volume,
Shit
volume,
diet.
volume. Yeah. I mean, like, it, I mean, I'm grateful that we've normalized testosterone therapy now for people because it gives guys a chance, a fighting chance to
Yep.
recover. But like I I wish that I knew what I know now when I was in my 20s. Now, I mean, I'd like to think that I would have had the perspective to slow down a little bit at that point, but I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and and a lot of that is just a mindset where and the same mindset that makes us successful is the mindset that kills us, which
Yeah.
is we all feel like we're outliers. The normal things don't affect me the way they affect other people. And I will do something stupid multiple times because I'm expecting a different outcome. It's the definition of stupidity. But
Yeah.
because we keep getting back up and we keep trying again and again and again, and it's just a gradual azimuth change every time. Eventually you find a path and you go down it. I think that one of the things that we've done a disservice to ourselves on culturally is we've kind of shied away from hard things, hard conversations. We tried to make everything padded, I guess.
Yeah.
We're baby safing everything for everybody. And it's like, look, growth doesn't happen in like
In comfort.
it,
It doesn't happen in the
yeah,
easy.
it does, right? Like I was gonna say, I was like, yeah, good sleep still matters, but also like real growth as a human doesn't happen in comfort. And
Yeah.
like life is tough. And I mean, I've had daughters most of my adult life. I got remarried and I acquired 4 sons in the marriage and
Oh,
raised.
wow.
Yeah. So there's 6 kids now, right? And it's awesome. But what's funny is when I was dating Heather, I told her, I was like, oh, well, I don't need to be a dad to your sons. Like, I just need to be present. Like you're the parent, you've been raising them. I don't need to go against you. And I realized really quickly that like raising boys is totally different than raising girls.
Yeah.
Hugs all the time is not the answer. And they're testing boundaries the same way girls are, but in a different way. And that they're not growing from being told yes all the time. They're growing from being told no, from being redirected, from having like potentially damaging things explained to them, allowing them to get hurt a little bit, but then being like, hey, the thing you're about to do is going to hurt you. I'll dust you off when it's over, but like, don't be stupid. And they're still going to be
Yeah.
stupid. We are, but like, it's a very different experience with boys than girls. And I sometimes think I'm being too big of an asshole, but also I look around and I'm like, every single male figure in my life who matters to me, who made a difference in my growth and existence, was a dickhead to me. Like
Yeah.
I strove to impress the
So
dickhead.
true, man.
Like, it's like,
So true.
hey, the guys who were nice to me, they didn't accomplish anything. The guys who were mean to me were out there getting it done, and they expected a lot from me. And so I expect a lot from my boys. I'm like, hey, and she's like, no, they almost did it. I'm like, I don't care. They know. We've told them 17 times now. They're going to do it right. And when they do it right, I'll tell them they did it right. But until then, I'm going to tell them how bad they're screwing up. And it works. I mean, and
Yeah.
they may not like me, like there are times where I'm sure they're mad at me. But the reality
Yeah.
is that it's like, as guys, it's what we need. And whether it's from your dad or it's from another male mentor that you find, you need people who hold you accountable, not people who push you, and it doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
jerk push. My climbing mentor is one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. And I had COVID during a climbing thing we do, like with the team. And he was like, hey, today's the day you're going to trad lead. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, this is it. You're going to trad lead this, 100-foot pitch. And I was like, bro, first of all, I'm petrified of heights. So just sport climbing alone is a big accomplishment for me. Secondly, you're going
Yeah.
to make me lead trad today. And he was like, yep, you're going to do it. And having all the guys around looking at me, waiting to make a judgment about me being like, I don't want to do it. I feel sick. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And sending that was a huge breakthrough for me in terms of understanding, I got done, huge accomplishment. He came up behind me and cleaned it up. And I was like, how was my placement? And he's like, oh man, half of those things would have come out. You probably would have died if you'd fallen. And I was just like,
I just wanted your validation and love.
But I mean, it's good to know. It's good to know that my placement sucked, And he walked me through every placement. He'd taken pictures of everything up as he came and cleaned up behind me. I mean, that's the kind of feedback you need. If you didn't do a good job,
absolutely,
even if it was a success, having somebody do an AAR and be like, hey, man, you didn't do it well, but you got it done. That doesn't mean you should do it that way every time moving forward. Because
it's so true. We need that. And I see that missing in our communities and in our society as a whole. Young men can't develop into their greatest version of themselves without male mentorship. It's the absolute truth. And I hate hearing counter arguments as to, well, it's not needed. No, dads aren't important. No, they're absolutely important. They're so crucial and so vital. And if you don't have a dad, having an uncle, having somebody within your community that's a good role model, like that's what helps us create great men who go on to do great things in their communities. Like we need that. Like it's a different mentality. We can't be coddled. We can't be, there's a time and place to hold space for somebody when they're not doing well. But when you're getting after it,
there's no such thing as zero defect, right? Like,
yeah.
Whether you want to look at it from a Christian perspective of we're all sinners, or you want to look at it just from a pragmatic standpoint, which is that people are generally flawed. The reality is, you look at people who seem to have it all together, and I can guarantee you they do not. Like, they put up a good face, their presentation is good because they're selling success. But that's the lie.
Yes.
That is a lie. Success is a lie. It doesn't matter how successful you are, the road to that place is pocked with failures and mistakes. And managing those mistakes is what makes you a successful person. It makes you happy. Understanding the mistakes you've made, mitigating those mistakes, recovering from those mistakes. And a good SF example, I mean, how many guys have we seen that were golden children that PT studs, shoot really well, they lead, they've got great combat experience within their organization, one shot for everything, like one shot Ranger School graduates, one shot SODIC graduates, one shot Cephalic graduates. And then they go to the long walk and they don't get picked up. And they come back to SF after failing, whether it's the long walk or OTC, they've gone up to another level. And when they didn't level up and they failed, they come back down to their level where they used to be rock stars and they're trash. They're literally terrible attitude. They don't want to work anymore. They think they're better than the people around them. And they just start imploding. Their lives become a wreck. And it's like that guy never knew what failure was like. He didn't learn how to deal with failure early on, being told no. And so now he's acting like a 10-year-old child. And it's like we need to create failure barriers for people as they grow up, where it's like it's a no-win situation. And that's how we teach in the Army, right? Like, especially within SOF. And I've taken it to OCS because it's outcome-based training. You learn way more from a failure than you learn from a success. If you came into this program and you knew how to do everything to begin with, and you just were great, I have very limited hopes for your ability to function outside of a training organism.
Yeah.
But coming in and me being like, hey, you're not going to get anything right. Like, I'm going to create a situation where you get everything wrong on purpose. Like, you'll do basic things right. And I'm going to introduce more and more stress, more and more conundrums that make you fail, because I don't want you to be successful in this the first time. I want you to learn that if you don't succeed, you try again and you try again and you try again. And as long as you're trying different things, and as long as you're able to give me an explanation for why you chose to do it this way, you're not in trouble. You're just learning. And I think that we've taken for granted that learning is a process. We think that you punch information into a person and you get information out. And every person is different, but we're all flawed and we're all making mistakes and we're all doing the wrong thing. And some of the most tortured people I know are people that do the wrong thing. They know it's the wrong thing, but then they convince themselves that they're only capable of doing the wrong thing. So they begin to be this person that is a bad person because it's all they know. And it's like, hey, man, just take a step back, breathe. The next right thing is right there. You don't have to do the wrong thing forever because it's your identity. You can just take a different path, do the next right thing, and then do the next right thing. And it's going to be really uncomfortable. And people are going to say things to you like, oh, well, this is who you are. You're, you can't change. I mean, beauty of humanity is that we can change anytime, at any point. Make a decision. You can go good or bad,
Exactly. Yeah. We don't have to stay rooted in the behaviors that we established in the military or what were in the situations you were born in. Like, we can continue to grow and adapt. And that's one of the things that I always tell people, like, don't get comfortable with who you are today in this path, this chapter of your life. When you get out, that's a brand new opportunity to do something that's uniquely just for you. You don't have to follow anybody else's path. And that's why, like, the identity piece and the purpose piece that we talked about earlier before we started, like, that's such a huge thing for guys and gals when they get out. It's like, fuck, like, I've just been doing this on automatic mode for so long. What do I do now? It's like, yeah, it's shocking.
Well, it's weird too, because I think after X number of years of being told what to do and functioning inside of an organism that would march on without you, regardless, people tend to feel like when they move on, they should do something that's for themselves. And like a culture of moral relativism coupled with a culture that really encourages self-care now, it's kind of, the temptation is to do things for yourself only when you move on. Cause you're like, well, I did all these years of doing all this other stuff with people, for people. Now I'm going to like run a dive shop. And it's like, cool, man. It's not that there's anything wrong with running a dive shop, right? Like, a dive shop is awesome, but what are you giving back? Like, are you actually teaching people, or are you just trying to like pay bills and recreate? And that's not very fulfilling. But I think it's why we see a lot of guys migrating to extreme sports, because they're getting a dopamine fix from something that puts their life in jeopardy. It's that they're pushing themselves, but it's for a very self-indulgent high. And a lot of that, like when we talk about like emotional regulation, regulating our own, dopamine, like not being addicts to dopamine anymore, all we really know is stress. We gravitate towards it. We choose relationships that are stressful. It's the what is it? Anxious.
That's one of the first things you can notice when you're on the other side of healing, is you notice your friends and the continued pattern they have for the relationships they get involved in.
Oh yeah,
like,
and it's
maybe not the waitress from Max.
Well, it's not fundamentally bad. It's not really, like, I understand wanting to be in that kind of arrangement. And the thing is, being able to say, well, that's not, and this isn't a cop out, but other people's emotions aren't my responsibility.
Yes.
How I act is my responsibility. If I'm continually acting in a way that receives negative attention, I might be the problem. However, if I'm making good choices and I'm putting other people's concerns first, and I'm trying my best to fulfill others before I fulfill myself, well, if the other person's angry about that, they need to deal with that on their own. You can't make other people happy. If you are focused on making other people happy, you will forever be sad because you just can't make everybody happy all the time. And it's why one of the things that I tell people, like, I judge the character of men more on the caliber of their enemy than the caliber of their friend. Like, it's easy to be a bar friend, but who you choose to be against is a bigger statement of who you are than who you get along with. I see a ton of weak guys that get along with everybody. I see a ton of strong guys that just constantly pick fights. Well, both of those are bad. But if you're a strong, good person, you will draw a line against people who are actively engaging in toxic behavior. It doesn't matter if the whole world likes those people. You have to say X, Y, and Z that those things people do, I don't want to be associated with. I don't want that stink on me.
Exactly.
And so when you see people that are like, and you can be kind about it. You don't have to, it doesn't need to be a vitriolic thing. It's just like, I don't want to be associated with that person.
Yeah.
It has been a real challenge for me because there's a lot of people in the community that have a lot of reach that everyone wants you to be associated with and be nice to. And you're like, I just can't get down with what they're doing. And that's not to say that I'm perfect. I am not. I think that it's interesting, not to segue too much, but I think, myself included, we have all told tall tales over the course of our careers and lives. Like, I'm from Texas. You never let the truth get in the way of a good story. It's always collaborations. You're gonna tell for the sake of the story. You're gonna tell kind of elaborate version. Nobody is. I mean, outside of like a severely autistic person, nobody is telling a story as it happened. You know what I mean? Like, exactly.
Yeah.
But when your identity becomes wrapped up in a thing that didn't happen, which, I went through when I failed out of college and trying to tell this narrative of why I failed out and why I was working in the oil field. And I had a really great story. But the cure was going back to college and graduating and realizing I didn't have to tell a story. I didn't have to manipulate the situation so that people thought better of me. All I had to do was do better. Well, now I'm going to do a better thing that I have to take pride in. And that is the thing that I'm hanging my hat on right now until the next thing that I then hang my hat on that. And so, like, it's not that I think that I don't think anyone's above reproach, but I do think that accepting that you're not above reproach and holding everybody else accountable is important. Especially when there are people who are your peers who are doing things with you and it affects their reputation. And then in turn, it affects yours. I think that is much broader than just the military veteran community. It's everywhere. And I think that because we're so inculcated in military culture, we see it as this microcosm, but it's everybody, right? Like, I could go to a stockbroker drinking session and I'm going to listen to 15 guys there tell tall tales about what they're doing and trying to make themselves look better because they want to look good for their boss. But what they really should be focusing the time on is, educating themselves on future trades, understanding the market, developing relationships, surrounding a deal. And the guys who understand that are wildly successful. The guys who don't understand that are going to be sitting at a desk hoping that their dividends are going to keep them a job for another year and telling you they're the best stockbroker that's ever lived when, truth be told, they're just not. It's, if a guy has to tell you how good he is, he's probably not that good.
100% in any profession.
and the best guys I know, I mean, genuinely the best guys I know are the most self-critical. They're the ones that'll tell you it's terrible. I'm not good at anything. Yep. And you're like, your splits lie. Your splits are telling.
Those are the best fucking teammates, and you'll never forget them. The best fucking teammates, the best dudes on the team. They'll always be hypercritical. They'll always be, nah, that's not good enough, Sarge. I got to do a little better. And that's the reality. And those are the stories that I wish more people would share. The reality of what it really, the guys that really like stick with you for the rest of your life, like those true legends. It's true legends on a team.
A lot of those guys struggle with adaptability though too, right? Which is like they may be really good in one area, but shifting gears into another area, like their mindset is right in the area that they're hyper focused on. But like then shifting gears and applying that same mindset to family, applying the same mindset to fitness, guys who are really, really good at one thing will let a lot of other stuff slide because they're so focused on that one thing. So, trying to maintain a global understanding of where you're good and bad, a spider graph, as you will, of all of the different things in your life. You can't be good at everything all at once. But I much prefer someone whose spider graph is circular and very close to the center than someone who has a tiny spider graph and like a couple weird outliers. And you're like, I know what you're good at, but like you're not good at all this other stuff, which makes you a liability.
Yeah.
And trying to tell guys like, well, I shoot, move, and communicate really well. And you're like, awesome. Like, I get that. But like you miss movement like 50% of the time. You drink too much. You are a social hand grenade. Like you're less good at the things you're good at because you're distracted about things that are going on at home. Take a little bit of the energy you put into the thing you're really good at and put it in things you're not good at. Because when you start to get better at those things, everything gets easier. You're minimizing the bandwidth. And I just wish as a culture, because what I've found is there's tons of things I'm not good at. But if I surround myself with people who are good at them, they backfill me a lot. They'll pick it up when I suck in an area I'm not good at, or they'll remind me that I'm sucking. Like, hey man, maybe you should do this. Like I've been reminded multiple times in the last year about, and I mean, like my attitude's right in a bunch of areas, but I've had people remind me like, hey, your view on this is very myopic, or like, like, I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah.
And then I take it home and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, maybe I should do better on that, and I'll apologize to my kids and my wife about something and be like, hey, I dropped the ball on this,
Dad was wrong.
Yeah. And not just being wrong, I've created an environment where it's easy for me to be wrong or be right in a way that isn't really productive. It's hard because a lot of the crutches we've learned to lean on over the years are things that are bad for us. I mean, I've got some whiskey behind me here. I'm not drinking for the next 50 days. My work, which I love where I work now. My boss is a rad dude. He sent out a text and was like, hey, we're going to do this, filthy 50 challenge thing. And it's silly, but it's good for me. Like to be like, I already stopped drinking at night because I wanted better sleep. And because I recognized that when I had 3 glasses of wine, when I was watching hockey with my wife, when she says something that a wife says, I'm much more open to being in a fight with her. I'm like, oh yeah, you want to argue? I'll argue. And I told her, before this came around, I was like, hey, I'm going to stop drinking at night just because I feel like we don't have arguments when I'm not drinking. Like, well, I pick them. And I'm like,
being sober was like one of the best things I've decided to do. And I always talk about it because it's truly one of the first decisions that I made where I did the warrant officer thing and analyzed it. Like, why did I drink? Why did I find value in it? And I realized like I didn't find value at all. And if I wanted to have if I wanted to focus on my fitness and truly analyzing what I could do to be better in every domain, I realized that I had to get rid of some things. And alcohol was just that easy thing I could get rid of.
It's not easy for a lot of guys, right? Like that's the problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that because man, I'm going to say some really unpopular things, but like alcohol is a drug and it's a massive depressant.
Yeah.
And it pretty much gets in the way of all of the good things that you want to do in life. And it's not to say that alcohol is bad, because I won't say that drugs are bad, like in moderation.
Yeah.
Like certain drugs have effects that are beneficial for people in different situations in moderation. But with alcohol, it's very hard to be moderate about how you consume it because it's social.
That's where I found myself.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a social thing. And when it's not social, it's even more destructive because then you're drinking by yourself and you're like, oh, it's just a few to help me go to sleep, but it ruins your sleep. I mean, like you don't get good rest. One drink within 4 hours of bedtime and you've ruined your whole night's sleep. And guys are like, well, it helps me go to bed. Sure. It helps you pass out. but it doesn't help you sleep well. So why are we doing it? You know, like, and everybody who stops drinking feels better when they're not drinking. The initial part's hard.
100%.
And I was talking with some people who developed a sleep app just yesterday, and I was talking with them about having discussions about the use of nicotine, because like we all, I mean, like whether we were smoking on ops or dipping or whatever. Well, now
Copenhagen.
Yeah, dude, I dipped Copenhagen from the time I was like 14 till, I don't know, 40. You know, and then these like Zens, this is Zemo, but
Zens,
they came out and he got rid of all the unhealthy aspects of nicotine delivery. And it doesn't, like, nicotine is healthy in some ways. It's also not good.
It's a nootropic.
Yeah, it's not good before bed though. So like if you're just dipping Zens 24/7, it's like, hey, a little bit's good, a lot is bad. Got to find what your balance is in using those things. So like self-awareness is the real power play here.
Yeah.
We all suffer
absolutely
from self-pity. And whether we want to admit that or not, guys, like, I don't pity myself. Like, I'm tough on myself. And you're like, yeah.
Yes, you do.
Also, like, why are you drinking a fifth of bourbon a night? Like, what's going on? I know what's going on. You're using this as an escape mechanism. And like, while I think that like psychotherapy and like, well, not psychotherapy, but like psychedelic therapy has huge value for guys. Like ketamine is helping people make massive breakthroughs on just things that they never would have dealt with. Same with psilocybin, ayahuasca,
DMT. That stuff saved me. I'm a big believer in it.
It's life changing.
Yeah.
But you see the same group of dudes who used to drink too much or used to be drowning in debt who are doing psychedelics daily, weekly, whatever. And you're like, hey, man, this is another thing. You're doing another thing. It's a coping mechanism. And like, it's not helping anymore. Now it's hurting. But when I say we, I don't mean me, because I have a really great group of accountability on stuff like that, which is like, you know, I did a mushroom journey with my 17-year-old. She's 22 now.
Oh, man.
She was 17. I did one with a Native American spirit guide.
That's awesome.
That was 5 years ago now. And I've talked about doing another journey, another therapeutic thing. I've worked with a bunch of different nonprofits that do it. And like, it was such a meaningful experience to me. I haven't really thought about doing it again. And you know, it's funny because
the same way it's an amazing journey. It's like, why, if the healing is so powerful and the journey stays with you as being like one of the most impactful moments of your life, I don't want to rush to do it again. I don't like it's
not to say I won't. It's to say it needs to be like, I need to identify problems or a block.
Yeah.
And I want to use this as a tool to overcome that block. And
exactly.
I find that other mechanisms are also helpful in overcoming blocks. Like if I'm like identifying a block, my immediate knee jerk isn't like, oh, I need to go hang out with Mike and Holly and do another mushroom journey. It's like, hey, I need to examine the choices I'm making and make different choices.
Yeah.
And, you know, the last 2 years, I've had a few sport injuries that have set me back in my training. And I was really quick to be like, well, I'm recovering and I'm not going to train now. And like post injury, staying mobile, doing the movement, but not really working out and training hard isn't bad. It's actually good.
Yeah.
But then, you know, when I got remarried, going through the adjustment period of having more responsibilities and my time is at premium, I just kind of quit training for 3 months. I was just like, I don't have time for it. And she's in the gym every day. And so she's like, are you going to train today? I'm like, no, I got other stuff I got to do. Well, I realized I was tired at the end of the day. So I was drinking wine. And then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be tired because I didn't have good sleep. And then I wasn't training because I was being lazy, not because I had a good reason. Or my schedule was too full. So, you know, knock out drinking. Suddenly sleep is better. Wake up refreshed. Now going into the gym at 6 a.m. isn't scary or weird. And like, I'm like, all right, cool. Now the first week sucked. You get late onset muscle soreness, and you're just like, oh God, this is terrible. And then the second week, it's like, oh, I'm so glad I made those choices and I'm back on it. My head's clear. I feel better about myself. Like, but it's a series of small choices. It's not a life altering big one. And when I talk to guys, they're like, I can't do this. And I'm like, I know it feels like you can't, but there are little steps to get there. And that's why, like, when I talk to people, my first thing is, how's your sleep? Because I think sleep is the biggest deal. Like, have you had a sleep study?
Oh, yeah.
You have a CPAP?
I'm finally off my CPAP. That was one of the greatest accomplishments I've done.
Nice. Well, good for you. I worship at the altar of CPAP. Like, I have one. I feel like an idiot. But I mean, I think I've had sleep apnea for a better part of 20 years. And getting on a CPAP, all of the things that I was being diagnosed with at a doctor, ADHD, generalized anxiety disorder, they were all tied to the fact, even when I was getting 8 hours a night, I wasn't getting 8 hours a night of sleep. And with a CPAP, I'm like, oh, like, dude, I'm not angry. I can think. I don't take Adderall. I don't it's like, that was sleep. Dude. That was it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I saw. It was weird. It was like a moment in the airport, and I started seeing every veteran carrying their CPAP machine, and it clicked on me. I would see all these men walking in to my, just next time you're in an airport, just pause and look at everybody around you, and you'll start noticing everybody carrying their CPAP. Yeah, the little bag, because they give you a little travel bag for your CPAP in case your luggage gets somewhere else. You can fucking breathe at night. I started digging into
travel, and every time I travel, I'm like, oh, why am I doing this?
I
want to buy one of those little rest mats.
And I realized
they make one that's the size of a phone, but it's $1,000.
Yep.
And like, I spend $1,000 on dumb shit all the time. I'm like, why don't I just buy one? Like, I just need to buy one.
Yeah. But I just realized if this is something that I can control, and I looked at all the studies and the correlations, like, I don't want to have diabetes. I don't want to have hypertension. Like, I want to be able to be here for my kids. I don't want to just be settling for like this comfort of having this machine. What can I do? I need to take control of my health. I need to take control of my life and start like digging into it. And it started with mindfulness. It started with meditation, breath work, and understanding like I can take ownership of these things. I can make this goal of being off this machine, and I don't snore anymore. Like, because trust me, like, my wife would let me know. Like, that's one of the biggest indicators if you need a CPAP, so how much do you fucking snore at night?
Yep.
But getting off that machine and seeing the benefit of it, and I owe a lot of the metrics tracking to the Aura Ring. I'm getting back with Whoop just because now I'm like, okay, now I want to nerd out and see if I can become a better runner. But having that Aura Ring and figuring out my sleep and seeing how shitty it was, I was like, fuck, dude. I don't want to be that guy in my 50s or 60s.
My SpO2 levels were
so
like
fucked
below
up.
80% multiple times a night before my CPAP. And now, like, I don't know how you got off of it, because if I go without it, like, it doesn't matter, breath work, weight, whatever, it's still bad for me.
Yeah.
But with the sleep meter, it's like, oh, well, I don't drop below like 95% when I sleep anymore. But guys don't want to get CPAPs. They're annoying. I get it, but it's a big game changer. And
dude,
I feel like
it's a huge one.
It sucks for guys.
Insomnia.
Deployable, guys want to be like, well, I don't want to do it because I won't deploy. It's the same thing as TRT. Like, I don't know what's going on at the USASOC surgeon, DOD med level in terms of saying, well, you can't be deployable if you have to give yourself a shot. You can't be deployable if you have a CPAP. It's like, you identified a problem and you've identified a solution. Guys are going to ignore the problem if you don't facilitate them pursuing the solution. So what's the deal? Like, I know you guys are afraid they're going to abuse steroids. Well, if it's doctor prescribed and everybody feels good, who's abusing it? Right?
Exactly.
And with CPAPs, it's the same thing. It's like, no, wait, you'd rather a guy snore Like, go to any team room, man. Like a open bay for training.
Oh, yeah.
It's like chainsaws all night
It's a
long.
nightmare.
Yeah.
All night long.
But what's the problem with guys having CPAPs? Like, it's beyond me.
Yeah.
To understand.
We have generators. We have extension cords. Like we make it happen all the time.
Yeah.
Doug, I can't thank you enough for being here, man,
Brother,
and being gracious with your time, dude. Honestly, I want you to know that what you guys created in Softlete and what you've created by putting yourself out there and always sharing your fitness journey, not only has it helped me as I've gone through injuries and look for new programs, look for new ways to adapt and get better, but you've influenced and you've helped so many individuals, like truly. And that's something that we all need to understand. Like, we can have a huge positive impact if we're just willing to show a day in a life of like just being a little bit better each and every day. And that's something that you've given back to the community so much, brother.
I appreciate it. It's like, I don't know how to receive kind words, so
I don't know how to take all this praise, so I'm just gonna fight you.
Yeah. First of all, you're wrong. Secondly, I'm my voice. But I appreciate it. I think that one of the things that Brent and I talked about really early, and I think that it has left a mark. I want more people to take this message away, which is, I'm an open book, sometimes to my detriment.
Yep.
I've shared personal journeys that probably I shouldn't have shared with people, but all of my skeletons, all of my junk is on Front Street. And the faster that people own their shortcomings and their mistakes and just go, hey man, I made a mistake and I'm going to try to do better. I can't promise it's going to be perfect, but like, I'm going to try to do better. Like, all of those things that held me hostage years ago, all of the imposter syndrome, the fear that people would figure out that I wasn't as good as I was trying to present. Like, I'm like the most middle grade, medium athlete, like I have all the shortcomings everybody else has, but like, nobody's going to ever be able to come at me and be like, hey, this thing you did, yeah, man, you're right. That was pretty screwed up. I've also owned it, and I don't do that anymore. And like, okay, like, sorry that you're still mad about a mistake I made 10 years ago. But if people will take that lesson and put their baggage on Front Street, I think it's very freeing, and it allows people to live a much better life. And that's a holistic, like, fitness, your emotional relationships, spirituality, all of those things. It's like, look, man, we're all figuring it out. We're here for a real short time. And, nobody just did it perfectly. They wrote a book about one dude that did, and they hated him so much they hung him on a cross. So, the other major religions, like, if you look at Islam, like, Muhammad wasn't perfect. Yeah. I mean, they own that. He was a man. They make a point of it because, he was so screwed up. So it's like, I just think owning our mistakes is step one. And then step two is being like, hey, how do I do better? And if that's, getting back in the gym, if it's, spending more time with your kids, whatever it is, the next thing is going to be more clear. And I think that, like, that's, if there's one message that I can give people through you giving me your platform, which I really appreciate, is, look, man, one right step is going to lead to the next right step and the next right step. And don't be discouraged because, things you did in the past pop up. Just own it and, move on. Everybody's been a fat piece of shit at some point in their life. Doesn't mean you have to die one. Like,
absolutely.
So
we can all work together and get better each and every day, man.
Yep. So thank you so much, Denny. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. And again, please check out Doug. Hit him up on LinkedIn. He's a real human being. He's a real individual. He exists in this world, and he will respond. And if you're looking for somebody to help you get back into your fitness journey and get you back in your fighting shape, check out my trainer, Terry Wilson. Like I said, great Green Beret, even better human being, and his information will be in the episode description. To all you tuning in, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the show. And please take care of yourself. And we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.